Hey, Don here. Okay, back with another live stream. Going to come back to where I left off. Um, check the sound over here. Okay. Okay, so I just got there deleting the partition, the Ext4 partition on my 7.28 terabyte backup drive. That it's called, Seagate calls it an 8 terabyte drive. Well, from what I remember having a bit of trouble when I formatted it the first time. I think it was and I was saying before, this is a hard drive in a in a box plugged into a USB cable, so it's a real hard drive. And when you do partition work on them, you need to reset the drive, turn them off, and turn them back on. So, if it's a flash drive, USB or SD card or something like that, then usually you can do your delete a partition, format it, and stuff like that without resetting it, and even write files to it most of the time. Sometimes I've had a little trouble with that, but I think it may depend on the file system you're doing too, somewhat. So what I'm going to do, I had to take a break, and I was sitting here waiting for Gparted to reload the scan the drives, and I think the reason it's taking a real long time, and I think the reason is because this drive, my 4.5 terabyte drive is so full of, got so much data on it. That's what I'm thinking. So because usually it doesn't take that long, and it's I could, if I messed up, I could delete the data. I could have already deleted the data on it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and close Gparted so that it doesn't get out of whack or anything. And see, neither one of them are mounted, but Gparted can see them and work on them. And you don't want them mounted to do any partition work either. That would be mess things up, cause errors. So now I'm going to go and now that they're unmounted, I'm going to turn the power off to the drives, and then I'm going to unplug the USB cable going into the box of the 4.5 terabyte drive so that it won't mount back up. It might not anyway. Usually when if it's not mounted on boot, it won't mount after that. Well, that's because of a problem, though. I think maybe it would if you do it normally, but I've only got the one mic, so I'm just going to have to get over there and do it. Okay, so I went ahead and turned the power off. I haven't plugged into a power strip. And then I unplugged the 4.5 terabyte drive, or called a 5 terabyte drive. And it should, the 8 terabyte, oh no, it won't mount up because it doesn't have a partition. Okay, I was sitting there thinking it was gonna mount up, but it won't, and that's fine because I don't actually want it mounted up. Let's see. Oh yeah, I didn't. I was like, why is that open? But I didn't. I rebooted everything, the phones and the routers and all that stuff, modem, but I didn't reboot this machine because it's running them good, and I didn't want to take extra time to do that. Okay, so let's get Gparted open back up. Yeah, I know. Let's see. Hopefully it won't take so long to scan the drives now because I have the other one unplugged. Yeah, see how quick that is now? That was what it was. It's because there's so much data on that other drive. I didn't realize that actually caused that. Hadn't noticed it. I guess because I usually unplug that drive before I go to work on anything because I don't want to lose my backups. So now I'm going to right click on here and say do a new partition. And I want it to be primary, and the default here in Gparted is Ext4, so that's what I want. And everything exactly the way I want it. I want the whole thing. You need to leave that 1 megabyte at the beginning and none at the end. And label it, let's see. I don't know if you can do a dot in a label. I can't remember. Oh, partition name and label. Yeah. I think the label you can't, and the name you can. I want to try giving it what I want it to be. I'd keep going around and around. You know, sometimes I generally think of it as the 8 terabyte drive, but then when I get to looking at it in the file manager and I see the actual size, it bugs me to call it. Well, it throws off my thinking. So either way, it's kind of a let's see, 7.28 TB. I'm going to do that. I could say Seagate, but the brand's not what matters to me. I'm going to try that. I kind of hate doing that, though. No, I'm not going to do it now because that might throw off my partitioning. I'm going to leave those blank and let the defaults go in there, and then after it's done partitioned, then I can try changing the name and the label. But I really do need them to be different because the other one is named Seagate whatever, I forgot, Seagate backup drive or Seagate something drive. And then when they both show up as the same name, you have to really, you got to really start paying attention to make sure you know which one you're even on, you know. So the last time I left them blank, and yeah, I wasn't thinking about, there's a partition name and then a label for the drive. And I'm not sure which one got filled in automatically, so maybe we'll find out here after we do the partitioning. So I'm just going to do the partitioning first. Make sure that works. Yes, 7.28. Yes, okay. Because I definitely don't want to mess up my drive on my system either. Okay, 7.28. Yes, okay. Okay. That happened last time. Okay, the partitions have been written, but we have been unable to inform the kernel of the change, probably because they are in use. As a result, of the old partitions will remain in use. You should reboot now before making any further changes. Now you can say, you know, if you say cancel, I'm going to say ignore because I think I remember saying cancel and having even more trouble. So what I'll do is reset the drive and see if it's going to be okay. If not, then we'll see. It's not actually done doing the work, it doesn't seem. See, it's still got the bar moving anyway. Created the partition. Those messages there. There's that message I was just reading. It's going to be wider than the screen, looks like, but that's okay. Okay. That part's okay. Now, clear old system status, dev STB1. Oh, okay. Okay. Did it finally, yeah, it finally, oh, it's finally says it's finished complete. Okay. Ext4, okay. (64-bit) file system support not enabled. Okay. Actually, I'm going to save that if I can. Yeah. Just going to save it in root. Okay. Now, there we go. So it looks like it worked just fine. And I'm not going to try to immediately mount it or anything. I'm going to Well, I'll just turn the power off to it and turn it back on because I don't have the other one plugged in. Until I'm done with all this, I'll leave the other one unplugged. Hopefully I won't have to, if I have to reboot the system like, you know, the actual system like it said, then I will have to stop the stream and start again, but I guess that's not the end of the world. If it doesn't mount up this time, then we'll actually have to do that. Well, there it goes. See, now it gave it that name. Well, it's fine. It mounted and opened it up in the default file manager, KJ, I think. Yep. So it should be all right. And yeah, see, 8 terabyte volume. Now let's. I think it's probably better to go ahead and let's. No, I don't think it really makes any difference. Let's go ahead and get in. Depart it again. Yeah, and it loses its icon. It doesn't have the Seagate icon. I kind of like the Seagate icon. It's a picture of the drive itself. Now see, it's already there when you don't have any data on the drives. Okay. And there's the actual address of it. It's using the UUID. Oh yeah, I guess that's because I didn't give it that name. Now let's see if I can go ahead and do that. Let's see, device, create a partition table. No, we don't want any of that. Partition, new name, manage flags, information, unmount. Now before you do anything, unmount it. That's what I wanted to show. You can unmount it in here, see. So now, see, it's not mounted. It's not showing up on the desktop. It's not mounted anymore. You could also right click, and I could have said unmount. Here's where, let's see, information. That UUID is a real pain. It's not something you can remember or anything, you know. If I can change it from being identified like that, I will. Let's see. Should be able to. Name partition. I'm going to name it just 7.28 terabyte. This is the partition name. Okay, now let's see if we can set it. Huh. Why would it lose data? Let's hit cancel because I might want to. Surely that wouldn't. New UUID. Oh no, we don't want to do that. That does that automatic thing. We don't want that. Label the file system. That's what I was looking for. Label the file system? Okay, well, we'll try that. I'm just not sure if it'll accept the dot. Can't remember. Now. Okay, name 7.28 terabyte, label 7.28 terabyte USB. That's what I want. Should be fine. That's the actual size instead of the, that's what's shown in gparted instead of the, you know, the lie they give you when you buy the drive. So let's do that. Now, are you sure you want to do that? Well, yeah, I'm not actually editing, you know, the actual partition. I'm just changing the name, so it shouldn't be a problem. Let's see. It's already done. I was going to try to show the progress, but it's already done. Okay, so yeah, I think it all went well. You really do have to do a lot of clicking to see everything in here. Okay, and the dot didn't throw any. In the olden days of Windows and DOS and all that stuff, like, well, what I mean is FAT32, which still had to obey DOS character set rules and stuff. I don't think you could put a dot in there. I think you had to use. I don't think you could even do a dash. I think you had to use underscores and stuff like that. And I don't think you could do capital letters either. Anyway. It's all done and it's got what I want. So I'm going to leave it like that. Now, I'm going to reset it one more time. and that'll remount it too. Now, do I want to do the other, plug in the other drive? Let's see. What is it I'm doing? Yeah, because now I'm not going to be doing any more formatting. So I'm going to plug my other drive back in. Not going to do any fancy. I wouldn't, the one with all the data, I wouldn't do what I wouldn't rename it or do any of that stuff because you might lose your data. You never know. Okay, now they should both mount up. We'll see. As I went ahead and plugged the 4.5 terabyte drive back in, they don't mount immediately. Okay, there it is, 7.28 terabyte. Yeah, and there's the other one. It's Seagate Expansion. That's what it's called. That's what they would both be called. That's what they were when I first. Oh, they're sitting on top of each other. Okay. Let's do it that way. Alright, so now I can easily tell them apart. But see, I like that icon. Now I'm sure I could. Oh, yeah. Let's copy those files back over there and see if it comes back. That's a good exercise in. So on this side, we'll go to the 4.5 terabyte drive, and then we'll go to, there it is, backup of the main partition files. There they are right there. Now, I was seeing that in my previous video, I realized, oh yeah, these are the files that I backed up to make sure I could put them back on there, and I don't know if I really ever did it. Probably didn't. So I'm just going to manually copy those over there. 8 terabyte, yeah. Okay. Huh. Wonder why not. Oh, maybe the whole drive is probably owned by root. Let's see if I can go. Let's get into Crusader root mode, and we'll make it owned by Don. That's, I guess, is going to be the default when you freshly format a drive like that. Let's see, yeah, we're in there already. Just happens fast. I didn't notice it. Yeah. I don't generally like dots in a file or in a name like that, but hopefully that's going to be all right. I can't think of any reason why it would really, well, it could cause trouble. Some programs don't like a dot in a folder name. File names is actually worse because it makes it think that's the extension, everything after the dot. Folders, it's usually not too big of a deal. I mean, I don't want to get all kinds of data on it and then find out my label sucks, So now I'm having second thoughts about that label. Well, right now let's just okay, we're in Crusader root mode, and the permissions are owner can view and modify. Everybody else can only view. Well, I want everybody. It's going to be world readable and writable, and I'm going to say Dawn. What is that? That could be a problem in other systems. So maybe if I make it world read and writable and, still leave it belong to root, maybe it'll be all right. We'll see. Okay, now let's see if as Dawn I can copy. Let's just try the icon first. Yep. Okay, let's try the rest. Yep, that was what I needed to do. Now, when I do my backups and everything, that's for Mac OS. There, registration. Let's see, I just want to see what the owner is of these things. Yeah, those are Dawn. I figured they would be because that's how I did it before. That's Dawn. I don't think that'll hurt anything though. I'm actually kind of wondering if I shouldn't change it to Dawn. Let's look at the let's look at this drive. Let's see how it's owned, what the owner is on the whole drive. It's Dawn. Okay. Well, that's been working beautifully, so I'm going to go ahead and get back in the root mode and do that. And now maybe when I write files, you know, from this, since this drive, if everything on here is owned by Dawn, I know there are going to be a few files. I may have manually copied files over there that ended up being owned by root. Not, you know, I'm guessing there should be at least some, just because I did that, you know. I guess the dot's not going to cause any trouble. I can't think of, in the folder name, I don't think it'll cause trouble. I generally try to stay away from dots in file names or folder names, but it probably wouldn't cause any trouble in any Linux system, but maybe in a Windows system, maybe. But I'm not really going to be in a folder. I guess it really wouldn't. Of course, now's the time to fix it if I think it's going to be a problem. Like I said, in the older systems, even a dash wouldn't work, you know, or capital letters and stuff like that. And there's sometimes when a space causes a real problem too. So, but a dot, it actually would look better if it had 7.28 dash TB instead of. That's why I didn't want to have a bunch of dashes in there. And that's also why originally I thought leave it at 8 terabyte, you know, the way it did it by default. Well, what it did, it had a dot in there before in the name. But now see, this is way better than that long UUID. It actually should be in dev, disk by ID. I don't see it. Looks like it still gets the system's name. It looks like they're both right down there. USB Seagate expansion drive. There's one. Oh, look at that. 7. There we go. There's a place where that happens. It thinks the .28 TB is the file extension. There you go. Whoops. I clicked on that. So yeah, I don't want that. Now I'm all screwed up. 7, yeah. I was afraid of that. I don't know why I sat there and let myself do that. Silly me. Okay, glad I've thought of a way to figure that out. Well, let's just see what happens if we go to get out of those folders and then close Crusader 2. See that my video is still working, my backup video. All right, now trying to think. What I want to do is unmount that one for sure, so that I don't safely remove drive. Instead of unmount, it says safely remove drive now. It does that sometimes. I don't know why it changes. So I'm going to unplug it again. And this other one, I'm going to go ahead and unmount it too. What does it say? Safely remove. Okay, well, I'm going to turn the power on. Then I'll unplug the 4 terabyte. Didn't do any good to unmount. Well, yeah, I didn't want to turn the power off with it mounted. That's not a good thing for any kind of drive. It would probably be all right for that. Well, actually, now with it mounted, oh, look, now it has its icon. Cool. So that's all I needed to get that icon back. But I am definitely renaming that. I'm not going to leave a dot in there. I'd rather get it done now before I get to putting data on there. And so there's something that if I could remember it, you wouldn't have to learn something new every day. If you don't need to be working on a drive, don't have it plugged in. If it's USB, something you can unplug like that, because it takes forever for Departed to scan it when you're not even trying to do anything to it. So information, I forgot how I got in there. I mean, I remember. Okay, well, maybe I did it separately, but name, partition, and label. I guess I'll give up and say 8 terabyte. I'm just going to say 8 TB. There we go. 8 terabyte. Now then, that was the name of the partition. Now, where do you go to? I think it's not still mounted, is it? Yes, it is. You forgot to unmount it. Well, you see, I didn't hit apply yet. So, oh, okay. Maybe that's something you can do. So what I'm going to do is undo that, unmount it, and then work on it. I think that's why I couldn't see the other. Unmount. That is the way to work on them. I just forgot. Partition name and UUID and label file system. Okay, so partition name, 8 terabyte. Could say 7-28, but that just gets confusing. So I'll just go ahead and go with the lie. We'll call it 8 terabyte. The manufacturer's lie. Let's see. Label file system. 8 terabyte USB. That's good. I don't need for it to say Seagate. 8 terabyte USB, unless I want to put a dash in there. But now it doesn't look so off though. So I think I'll go with that. And we'll look it over just to make sure everything is good. And to kind of learn about how things happen here. And I don't believe we'll be losing any data and having any trouble with the, that little bit I already have on there. You can actually usually do these two things here with data on there from what I remember. It's been a long time since I even bothered doing this. Usually I just leave them. Usually it's USB or SD cards, and I'm reformatting them pretty often, so whatever the fault is, I just leave them at that. It's to be a pain to do this. So okay. I'm just going to go ahead and save that information there too. Okay. Now it should be okay. And okay, I'll turn the power off, plug in the other drive, and get them back on, mount it up again. Okay. We should be, yeah, there we go. 8 terabyte and the Seagate expansion. I guess that it would probably want to organize it with in alphabetical order. I'll leave it like that this time. Okay. Let's go back to Crusader. Now, nothing really should have changed in the file permissions or any of that stuff. I don't think my files will be gone or anything. Let's see. Yeah, that's going to be more universally usable, I think. Yep. See, nothing got changed on the file permissions. So now I could try changing the file permissions on all of those. Actually, you know what? I think I wonder if I can do that because it's NTFS. I think I can. That's already done though, so there's nothing to change there. Like I said, there could be some files that have a owner root on there, but then again, maybe that's one thing that NTFS can't do because it doesn't know how to deal with a root, you know. It may only give it permissions of the user that is writing to it, you know, the regular user. Even though I did that as Crusader root mode, I don't really know where I could possibly find a file that might be owned by root anyway in here. So in this drive, backup drive. So oh yeah, let's go to actually I think I can just go to dev and disk. Yeah, I think I can do this without yeah, 8 terabyte. Now that's better. And see the other one, Microsoft Reserve partition. That's the that's the Reserve. Okay, Basic. I guess that's the NTFS. Earlier I said the Microsoft one was the NTFS, but now I realize Reserved. So Basic. I saw the word Basic when I was in gparted. By label Seagate, and see that /Ext4. That's what the space puts in there. And it causes that to happen. The 8 terabyte USB, see that reads real nice and clean. So your label is actually matters, you know. And then these are coming from the firmware on the drive here. All these labels. But see, if you were having to edit your etcfs tab file like I used to have to do because it wasn't automatic back in the olden days, it's much better to have something like that. So, yeah. Okay, so that's good. Now you can't edit any file. Well, you don't want to edit any files in there, but in that folder you would have to be root to edit files, but you wouldn't really want to do that anyway. Okay, very good. You know, I think I'll go ahead and how am I going to do this? Oh, I was going to say I'll reboot the machine and let it start backing up, but I just remembered two things. I'm going to have to eat supper, and I'm going to want to watch videos while I eat supper, and I wouldn't be able to do that. And then number two, that's number one, actually. So that's going to be number one. Number two is I was thinking I would show it, but you can't show it while I'm rebooting because it's the machine I'm streaming from. Now I actually turned on my mom's machine, you know, with the Fedora 27 on it still, and the OBS is still working in there, and it's version 22, by the way. You know, I had to revert to version 21 to get this one to work in Fedora 28 because it quit working when at some point with an upgrade, you know, some sort of update. I mean, could be. I'm starting to think because they're different kernels though, so I'm starting to think that maybe it was a kernel update and not a bug in OBS, like I had arrived on deciding that it was a bug in OBS. Yeah, let me get back in here now into Lucky Backup. That's the last thing that I want to triple check or quadruple check. Oh, yes. Actually, it's something I need to do. Now that I've relabeled the drive, see there, we got a problem. I'm going to deselect it as something that's going to be run right now and then edit that profile. What's the problem? Well, the destination is wrong now. And see, now you can go and you can find the folder. Let's see. Run media. Oops. Media. Dawn. There we go. 8 terabyte. Choose. There we go. Validate. Seems to be okay. So, now that part's good. That was the only thing that's messed up. You know, was the destination has changed. Now it's an actual, you know what that destination means. 8 terabyte USB. Oh, yeah. That drive there. Now the source is the Seagate expansion drive. Now see, it would have said, if I hadn't renamed all that stuff, it would have said source Seagate expansion drive, destination Seagate expansion drive. That's why, well, it actually happened automatically when I reformatted it to Ext4. It just gave it that default name that it had, but it had that it was going by the UUID is where the mount point was. So now the mount point is 8 terabyte USB, and that's much easier to understand and deal with and know what's going on. Now, I'm going to try to preserve ownership and times, permissions, symlinks, recursion to subdirectories. Do not ever delete files unless you're trying to synchronize folders. You know, make carbon copies on either side. Don't ever delete files on destination. And since I back up from multi sources to this destination, well, you know, that's the way I do my backups. And you never want to delete files on the destination. So, yeah, temp super user activities. Now, there's, like I said, there's some files that might have root file permissions that accidentally on that backup drive, that 4.5 terabyte drive. You want to be able to copy them. You want to make sure of that. So even if you end up with a headache later on with file permissions, but like I showed you, usually it's not too hard. As a matter of fact, with these drives, I was able to change the file permissions on the entire drive within just a few minutes there in Crusader root mode. Now on some of these USB sticks and stuff, you can't do that. It just won't work. You have to go and you can do a folder by folder or file by file, but you can't do the whole drive like that. Don't know why. Something about the way they're, I guess the firmware is written, you know, and the file permission structures in them. And well, it is FAT32 that I always use on them. That could be the thing right there. Maybe that's it. With Ext4, you can do it, and that's a good thing. That way, if you have any, if you're worried about having files that with the you know you have some files that have the wrong permissions, but you don't know where they are, well, you can just change them all, you know. So I'm going to say okay to that, validate. It should be okay. Now, I'm going to turn it back on because now it wants you to save it because I deselected and reselected that. And you don't have to redo your cron jobs, but actually instead of doing that, let's do a dry run. Where's the schedule? Yeah, see, it's all, well, let's look at it. 10 minutes after boot. Okay, let's hit cancel because we're not going to change it. And you can hit cron it and make darn sure it's done. And then, you know, it should very well run when you at 10 minutes after your next reboot. Okay, and I'm going to hit run in the simulation dry run mode. That's really fast. And so it'll go through all three of those profiles and tell you what errors might be seen and what would be successful and all that stuff. Simulation mode. So and it's funny, it lists a lot of files. I guess it lists every single one of them. Where are we at here? Okay, that was home Don. Now it changed, did something. I guess it was just that something that would have taken longer. Home bookmarks. I don't know why it's kind of slows down on some files that are really small. Now, there's my Google takeout. Now that's in 1.2 gigabytes, not terabytes. Oh yeah, all those cache files. I still have never taken. I need to go in there in those other profiles and turn off, you know, backing up cache files while I'm here. So that's just ridiculous to keep on doing that. And then once I get it turned off, I can go in there and find them and delete them. Do a screenshot of that. Maybe it'll help me find them. Delete those. You don't need your browser cache files, you know. Matter of fact, I'm going to abort this and do that. So let's go into both of these backups. Modify. I realize now it's not going to be too hard to. Oh, that's the thing. You can't see these are only includes instead of normal include. You don't get to use the exclude list. They're actually selected, but it's deactivated. That's why I'm getting cache files, because my only include. So I can't. This is why it's still like that. I can't do anything about it. Let's see if this one's going to be the same way. Careful, you'll hit remove. It's right there next to it. Now this one's, yeah, same way. It's an only include. Now that's the only way I could get my folders to end up the way I wanted them in there. So cancel. Let's do our dry run again. You know what? I said it went pretty fast, but I just remembered last time it really had, I think, just gotten a good start on the big, you know, the 4 terabyte to 5 terabyte. I mean, 4.5 terabyte to 7.23 terabyte, whatever. Now I can't say it. 5 terabyte to 8 terabyte drives. I thought it was done, and it wasn't. It was actually, and I hit. Surely I didn't hit abort. I don't know, because, you know, you can see that big old red X, abort. Anyway, I thought it was done, and then just as I clicked it, I saw, wait a minute, it wasn't done. But anyway, and I've already ran it, you know, two or three times since then, and it was working. But anyway, it gets through the first two profiles, or whatever they're called, We call them profiles, backup profiles. It gets through them quick enough, and then it gets in on the big one, and you can get a good idea of whether or not it's going to work. It doesn't take long for my throat to get just flat sore when I start talking. Well, I had the window open most of the whole day, and it's been raining and, all the allergy stuff, I think. I started feeling it getting to me. My nose was running like crazy, and throat was even feeling itchy and scratchy. So I shut the window. Of course, then it got hot in here. It's 79.9 in here right now. Oddly enough, I'm not feeling it like it's really hot. I guess it's cooled down outside. It says it's 57. That's not that cool. It's crazy weather. It'll go from, below freezing to 60, even 70 degrees day one, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Last couple 3 weeks. I guess if I was outside in it all the time, it would really take a toll. But I'm staying in the house, all the time. So I just notice not quite as wide of a swing. It's like gets down to about 74 in here, and then it gets up to about a little over 8. It's been between 75 really and 81 degrees in my room the last few weeks, just depending on what's going on with the weather and what the heater's still set on, and stuff like that. And sometimes I open the window when it gets too hot in here if it's cooler outside, cool enough to make any difference. Now see how fast that's going now. It's much smaller. I can see ping on some of them. I just happened to see it go by. I saw JSON on some of them. When it stops for a second, you can kind of read the file extension. But what bothers your eyes to keep looking at it, though. But doesn't go quite that fast when it's backing up. I don't know how that simulation works, but it tells you what would happen, and it really helps. It works well. But what? Oh, let's see. Yeah, okay. Now we're into the big backup. The source. You can see expansion drive, destination, home, run media DON 8 terabyte USB. So now we're seeing, what would be happening. Oh yeah, the Dell laptop backup, there's a bunch of files from there. A lot of those files, a lot of files are very small on your system, and then your videos are, especially mine because they're long, are, anywhere from 500 megabytes to, some of them are small, little tests, but the actual videos, 500 megabytes are a really small video for me. They're usually 1.5 to 3.5, 4 terabytes. Not terabytes, gigabytes. Been saying terabytes so much today, that's all I want to say, I guess. But yeah, a lot of these files I'm seeing some of when it pauses, I'm seeing them go by. They're files you would probably never need. Most of those are not very big, but when you do need some kind of system files, or your settings, from a program that took you forever, like OBS Studio, to get them set up, it sure does save the day. So I always say to myself, well, later I'll go, when I get to where I know I don't need them, I'll go back and delete them. But then that's a mammoth task, going through and finding all that stuff. Sometimes I do. I've went through and cleared things out before, spent a day or two doing it, and then I don't do it again for a year or two. But not on this drive. It's big enough I haven't had to yet. But my old system, my old Fedora 14 system, the red black BioStar that has I still can't. I always forget. Every time I look in there and say how many drives do I have, it's 4 or 5 drives I have in it. But and most of them are just about full. I think a couple of them have 10 gigabytes left. But they're pretty full of backups, and some of them I've copied over here because I needed them, but most of them, they're different backups. They're not the recent, they're older backups. older videos, older pictures, older. Well, now one thing that is the same, and that's I make sure I back up all my music more than once. I probably have 3 or 4 backups of my music because it's most of it is my music that I made, that I recorded, and I sang and wrote the worked the lyrics, and my other friends that I knew played the music. So that's important. But I'm still kind of curious as to did I really cancel it? I think what happened is it paused for a long time. It might have hit some of those videos or something, and I thought it was finished and reached up there and really didn't read the button and just hit stop. But I don't want to. I see that there's not a progress. The progress bar hasn't even started showing yet, and usually it shows. I think it does in simulation mode. So I'm thinking I don't want to sit here and wait on it. Here's so many JSON files and JS files, JavaScript files in a system. It's just crazy. Of course, some of that could have been a Windows system or something. I don't know why. Yeah, because that laptop, that Dell 1525 laptop had Windows 7. I got a backup or 2 of that in there. Photox. I remember the name of it, but I don't remember using it much. It's an image. I think it's image viewing and maybe some light editing app. Could even be for organizing images. I don't know, like renaming and tagging and all that sort of stuff. I saw APK, so that was an Android backup. There's Mom's 10-inch tablet. That might have been where we were when I saw that. But yeah, I'm thinking since there's no green in here, that it hasn't even got enough done to start showing a progress, unless it's just not going to at all. But I think that's enough to figure that it's going to work. So I'm going to stop it. Let's see if there's any. I mean, if you really need to know, then when it gets to be too many files, they don't all show. It doesn't go back. See, it doesn't go back to the other 2 profiles. So if I hadn't been watching that, I wouldn't have known at all. I thought it showed the whole history. Maybe it doesn't when you abort it. So anyway, I think I'm set up now to just let it run. So I'm gonna let it run all night again tonight. Of course, now that I deleted that terabyte of data that was already on there, it'll start from scratch. And only thing I got on there is just the lost and found was there. That's just a default folder that all drives get on their own. I guess the firmware puts it in there or something. Yeah, that's whatever it is you need to make it. Probably tell you how to format it to work with Mac OS, because I know that you have to reformat to make these drives work with Mac OS. Mac doesn't work, or I guess it doesn't read NTFS. I've never had a Mac, so only worked on them just a handful of times ever. But yeah, now I've got my icon back because of me copying those files. I had just never done that. I forgot. But so whenever when I get done I'll do the same thing like I did last night. I'll reboot it, get it all logged in, and then make sure that it has started backing up, and then I'll turn off the monitor and go to bed. And so maybe this will make it. Maybe I've got all my file. I think it wasn't my file permission settings. Evidently, I think it was. I don't know. If I end up with trouble, well, it could have been because now I have this drive. Oh, probably the first time I did all this, I did not. See, I have changed. I tried writing a file and saw that I couldn't, so I changed the file permissions on the drive to Dawn. And that's what and I realize now that's what the file permissions should have most all be on the other drive. So now I shouldn't have any, permission denied errors. because I don't remember the details, but I do remember having some of those kind of problems. I think that's why some of those folders, I'm almost certain that's why some of those folders were empty. Then some of them, though, but the way things got, when I changed my settings, it didn't retain the original dates of the folders and files. So then, well, I showed that in the previous, I guess it was a video before this one now. So I changed my don't skip older files anymore. I changed that. So now maybe once I get that whole drive backed up to this drive, I may want to go back, because it does speed it up a lot, and I don't usually have that kind of trouble in my normal everyday backups, because in your normal everyday backups, you're backing up new files, files that are newer than what's on your backup drive, and so it speeds things up a lot. Anyway, to get this, initial backup of the 5 terabyte drive to the 8 terabyte drive, then that's what I'm going to use, is the settings I've been showing here, back and forth, changing them and trying to figure it out. And then if I need to adjust, I can adjust. But hopefully, oh boy, I saw myself yawning when I flipped back over there. Hopefully, that will work well. Now I get to see it again, because now it's finally made it to my actual live stream. Crazy. It was a little behind when I flipped to the camera mode, and I saw myself. I'd already done that before I flipped, to the camera mode. And then I happened to look over to the laptop, and it was happening again. It doesn't take much to amuse me. Okay, so I'm quite easily amused. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes tonight and tomorrow. And I don't know how long it's going. Maybe I don't know that it makes any difference. I do think that, like, the first time copy is quicker than going through and checking and seeing if you need to write again, for the application. So, but I can't really just let the machine run until it's done, because it gets so slow that, like by the next day, like this morning when I got on it, and I had to sit there and shake the mouse and wait for it to kind of course, the machine had to wake up. The machine didn't go to sleep. I turn off every sleep mode and all that stuff. Linux has sleep mode too, and that would break your backup job. It would think it was asleep and go to sleep. So anyway, I don't let them go to sleep, but they turn the machine. They can't get it to quit turning the monitor off. It used to didn't do that, but now it's doing it every 10 minutes or so. But I turn the monitor off anyway to make sure that if I bump into the mouse or something, moving around the room, bump into something that jars the desk, I don't want that light coming on, at night. It's pretty bright at night, when all the other lights are turned off. So anyway, the machine is very, very sluggish after it's ran for probably just really overnight. It's really sluggish. Now today I ran it for 2 to 4 hours while I was on the other machine doing stuff, and it got pretty sluggish, and I can't backing up that much data. I guess it just really probably runs more parallel writes at the same time with that much more data, I guess, or the fact that it really, what it might be, that it's having a copy from NTFS, the Ext4, because that used to be horribly painfully slow backing up writing to an NTFS drive from Linux. It's much, much better now, but the machine doesn't get that bogged. I can still, surf the web and watch videos when it's just backing up to the NTFS drive, but when it's after it's been copying from the NTFS to the Ext4 for several hours, then the machine gets pretty darn slow. I think it may not really be the file system that matters, just that it's been doing that for so long, running rsync and copying files for that long. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is I can't do anything else on the machine while it's doing that. So what I did today was, when I got up, I saw that it was running really slow. I rebooted, and I thought, let's see. I knew I was going to get on the other machine, so I just let it go ahead and start backing up again. And then after I got done and came back on it again, I was like, oh, it's really slow again. So I rebooted it again, and this time I made sure it didn't start backing up, and and so that I could use it, And so I'm just going to have to do that. I may have to just kind of incrementally back it up through the night, and then all day. That's my only good machine to use, so all day I'll not run the backup. So I don't. Well, the simplest way, I can activate and deactivate that profile for the 5 terabyte to 8 terabyte. But what I did earlier today, or this evening actually, it was, I rebooted, but I made sure and waited 10 minutes till after the backup drive had shut itself down. It shuts itself down after 10 minutes if you're not logged into the desktop. If you're booted up and you're at the login screen but you're not in the desktop, it won't run. And so I waited till after 10 minutes and then logged in, and then it had already shut itself down. I don't know why it can't run when you're not logged in. I don't know. I guess it needs to be logged into your username, I guess, to run that job. But it's there. The little shell script is the timer is there waiting to run it, but if you're not logged in, it won't do it, which is fine. There might be a way to make it work anyway. I don't know, but never had a real need to figure that out. So there we go. Yeah, it's not super simple. It seems like it would be simple. Okay, I'm going to back up this drive to that drive, but it's not when you have one of them NTFS, and I knew that, but it just seemed I was a little bit, brand new drive. It was working really good with the NTFS, and I did think, well, I am going to be plugging in. At the time, I was going to be plugging in. I thought, well, I can just plug it right into Windows machines and back them up too with no problem. At the time, it seemed okay, but then after the NTFS file system broke 3 or 4 times, and I had to fix it, and I thought I was afraid I was going to lose my data. And now it's got to where I swear 3 out of 5 times it doesn't mount when I reboot the system. When I turn the system off at night and then boot it back up the next day, it doesn't mount 3 out of 5 times, I swear. And sometimes just a regular reboot, it won't. So and I don't think the drive is failing or anything like that. Matter of fact, I don't know if I've checked it lately, but anyway, I'm sure it's in good health. It's that darn cable. It's the connector. It's the connector on the cable, and I've showed it and talked about it before, but it's just a 1/4 inch long, and it can wiggle, and now that one on that 5 terabyte drive is so loose that just sneezing at it will make it lose connection. It'll get crooked, and then turns the drive off. Well, it loses power. What it does, it loses. Well, it has a separate power, wall wart for it, but that powers the system, the drive, the box. But it loses this data connection, and I guess that the USB, the power in the USB, it probably just doesn't use that. I would guess, since it has a separate power adapter that, you can only get so many. I forget how much it is. Maybe an amp. Not even. I don't think you can even get an amp through the USB cable out from the computer. No, I don't think it's that much. I would guess it'd be about half an amp at the most. But the wall wart probably is about an amp to. It could be a 2 amp. I don't know. I don't remember. I think I looked when I first bought it. But anyway, so then that causes it can cause the file system to break, or it can just cause the thing to get all out of whack. Even when you know, like if you move, you don't want to. I've tried that. You don't want to just wiggle the cable and hope that it mounts back up. That causes even more trouble. Used to, I could turn off the power to it, make sure the cable is straight, you know, and check it and make sure it's straight and everything, the USB cable, then turn on the power and it would mount back up. But now it won't do that. Every time it gets an error and I have to reboot my system to get it to mount back up. And I want my backups to be done every day, you know, so I usually do that, even if I wait a couple hours. Sometimes I do it just to make sure I don't forget, you know. So the 8 terabyte drive, you know, it's brand new and it's kind of wiggly, but it's not half. The other one's twice as easy to move. You know, it moves further than this one. So right now it should be fine, and it shouldn't break the file system even if it loses connection. You know, while it's being written or anything, it just break that file. And then it should just get overwritten. But, you know, Lucky Backup will override anything that's, you know, it can see that it's not the same size as the source file, so it'll just override it. And usually fixes stuff like that. I have had a few times where, you know, say videos or audio files get really messed up somehow in a situation like where they get the write interrupted and they're like locked and they can't be overwritten, and you have to go and manually delete them, and then, you know, you got nothing in the way, so then your next backup will work. But I was afraid I was getting into stuff like that, but now I'm not. I think I see now that it was just that I had it said, those empty folders and all that was just because the date changes. You know, it was given at the day that you write the files instead of the original date. So, and I was saying don't overwrite newer, and so the original file was older than the folder name. So that was hanging that up. So now, hopefully I'm fixed up. And we'll be all right. Then I can go back to finishing my server and getting it out in the garage, and putting DDWRT on my router, my TP-Link router, so I can put it out in the garage for the server, and then finish Mom's computer. I decided to replace that ASRock motherboard that works but not right, and a lot of, you know, several things. The Ethernet doesn't work, the onboard Ethernet doesn't work, the onboard VGA doesn't work, and today I had it on, and I decided I usually don't have a audio cable plugged into it, because with my patch bay, I have a patch bay, but when the more you plug into it, it doesn't have any circuitry in it or anything. It's just hard-wired patch bay. And so the more you plug into it, then the more the signal weakens, and then it makes me not even be able to get enough volume on some videos to hear what they're saying, you know. So I only plug, though, you know, I've got one. How many machines do I have plugged in? Actually, I've only been keeping one plugged in at all times lately. I used to keep 3 or 4, but right now I have 2, the AS Mom's machine and mine. And I had to look because there's 4 other cables plugged in, but those actually go out to the amps. So there's no in and out on that thing. They're just all daisy chained together. And it was homemade, custom made by my friend's dad years and years ago. And I got it. I inherited it when he died. And he was an electronics engineer, so and I could see he did a good job. He used quality parts and everything. It's old in some of the connectors, RCA connectors. It's an RCA patch bay, but he had set up a little recording studio with 4-track, multi-track, 4-track. He had a reel-to-reel 4-track and a reel-to-reel stereo. Had a little TX mixer, like a 4 or 8 channel mixer. I got all that stuff. And then I took it to another guy's. I let this other guy use it. He was setting up a recording studio. He had rented a building, and I was going to let him use it, and then end up losing this stuff. He I never did get it back when he moved. He quit doing that and he moved, and I wasn't in bad health, and I wasn't able to go over there and get it. And my buddy, the one who gave me this stuff, because when it was his dad that died, he didn't know what to do with all that stuff. He didn't know how to use it, and he gave it to me. And he said he'd go get it, but he didn't make it. So I lost a bunch of cool stuff. But anyway, I thought it was better to put it to use than to put it in the garage here. Back at the time, I actually had room in the garage because I didn't think I'd be able to use it in the garage in the heat and the cold, Because he was renting a building, a nice, decent building. And he had air conditioning and heat and all that. And anyway, how did I get off on that? The patch bug. Okay. The mom's machine with the ASRock and the 8300 8-core. I call it I noticed I named it ASRock 8300. I thought, well, I'll plug in cable so I can hear sound. I thought I might even watch, some YouTube videos while this thing is letting it back up all day. I thought I might do that. And it had a horrible buzz in the audio, and I didn't remember it having a buzz in the audio, so I think that might be something else that's going wrong because see, I used that motherboard for several years with a dual-core processor, an AMD processor, and, some DDR2 RAM. And so now I bought the 8300 processor and some DDR3 RAM and put all that together to upgrade Mom's machine. And but it didn't. The Ethernet worked. The onboard video worked. It didn't make buzz in the audio. I think it did. Some machines will actually cause your, I was talking about the audio signal getting really weak. Some machines, some computers will cause more of a drain on your voltage, I guess you would say, your current, in your audio when you plug them all together like that in a patch bay than others. And I think seems to me that's why that one wasn't plugged in, is because it might have been because it was buzzing and I forgot, but I thought it was just because it drug down the signal too much, too weak. And so when I tried to watch a video on this machine, it couldn't get loud enough sometimes. But it was buzzing, and I don't know, I was just in a mode. I just kept working on it. I kept jumping up and down trying to fix it and playing a video here on this machine and playing one of my videos, one of mine with my music in it. And finally I thought, and it, the buzz would come and go and come and go, and I thought, is it the cables, and all that. And finally I did figure out that one of the left side on that cable I'm using, it's RCA to 3.5 millimeter, did figure out that it may have a bad connection because it was not working. It work and not work, work and not work. And I thought it was the RCA connectors at first, but finally I unscrewed the jacket, kind of moved it around, and then plugged it in with the jacket off, and it worked. So then I put the jacket back on, and it kept working. And so I thought, okay, well, that's good enough for now. So I think I need to. It's a factory cable, but it's a pro style cable. It has metal connectors. You can actually work on it. But I'm kind of aggravated that I paid like $6.50 for it, and it's already doing that. And I haven't been moving it around and stuff. It's just been hanging there, plugged into the rack for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years. So anyway, I may have to do some soldering on that. But it has shrink wrap on it. Shrink wrap. Well, you know what I'm trying to say. And I didn't want to, cut into that and mess with that right then. So I left it. But it's working. Last time when I quit, it was working. But the buzz, I got rid of the buzz by I have 2 of those USB sound cards like I've been talking about recently. I've been using on this machine. So I got out the other one and plugged it into that machine in the back, and it worked. very nicely, and the buzz went away. So that's just a temporary thing for right now, so that if I need to hear sound on that machine, I can while I'm doing this, in case if I decide that I want to. Well, I was just doing it. I wasn't really doing it for a plan, like say, I just did it. So definitely need to separate that ASRock and that 8300 processor. I just think that they're just incompatible, because the 8300 processor was not even made yet. They had not come out with one when that ASRock was built, and it will support the earlier. It works and it runs good, but there's some odd things that don't work, and so it says in the ASRock website that it'll support specific 8-core processors, and that's not in the list. But I had looked, I did a bunch of research online, and I saw people say, well, it won't work, but some people said, yeah, it'll work, but don't do it. You're going to have, well, they said don't do it because it will overheat, because there's no heat sinks on the VRMs. But they're talking about, the only place you can really find good information about that, where people really mess around with hardware that much, is usually gamers and, and overclocker websites and stuff. And, well, I'm not going to overclock it. It's for my mom. And so I thought it might be okay, but it wasn't. So I bought that Asus motherboard, and so I need to put it in there, and then it's hopefully everything will be fine. I bought one that's of course, it's like a new old stock, really, now is what it is, because this is not being made anymore. It's a M5A78. I'm looking at the box, M5A78L-M plus USB 3. So, so it's 2 or 3 or 4 years newer than the ASRock motherboard, and it was in. I looked and looked and looked, and it was in several different lists saying it supported the 8300 processor, so it should be good. As long as I didn't get one, I really, I've already had it for. I don't know if I've had it for a month yet, but that's what's starting to worry me now, is making sure it's not DOA or something, before I guess my return window may be passed, though, with Amazon. I think that's where I got it, I think. Yeah, Amazon. Ooh, that'd be bad. I really did not intend to let that happen. Something that's that expensive, you don't really want that to happen before you make sure it works. But things have just been going wrong, and I just haven't been able to do anything but just keep trying, So here we go. I'm going to go, and hopefully I'll be able to get in there and get my supper, and I'm going to eat my supper and go to bed. All right. We'll see how all the backups go, and then we'll go from there. All right, bye.